Hi and welcome back to my orchid life. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming over for another visit, and if this is your first time, I appreciate you coming on over, clicking on the video to see what's going on. Today we are going to talk about my Phalaenopsis deliciosa, also known as the Kingidium decumbens. So the Kingidium used to be a class all of its own, along with the Doritis, the Polychilos, and several others have all been reclassified and everything's been thrown into Phalaenopsis. This one here is the subspecies hookeriana, and the reason that what makes it different, not the reason, but what makes it different is the blooms. So the blooms on this, let me hold her still, have yellow sepals and petals with the red lip. The other deliciosa generally have either white or purple sepals and petals with the deeper lip. Additionally, the spikes on this deliciosa, the hookeriana, tend to be more pendulant, whereas the other deliciosas tend to be more upright. Obviously, they'll become pendant with age, but this one will naturally just automatically be pendant. It doesn't really grow in a straight line. Also, they're all found, all of the deliciosa are found in large portion of the Southeast Asia area, such as your Bangladesh, Himalayas, Nepal, Northeast India, and they generally grow in what they call a riverine foresty area. And from the best that I could get offline and research, a riverine forest, and riverine is R-I-V-I-N-E, forest is the excess water from streams and rivers that the stream and river can't hold overflow onto the banks, and that's why it makes it very moist there. They grow 600 meters and below, and they do prefer high humidity, and they prefer to stay moist, not wet. I have researched and found that they do very well mounted. However, if you are going to mount them, just remember they are going to require a lot of watering, a lot, especially if you're not in a high humidity area. They do well in terrariums where the humidity stays really high. Since I do grow in my living room, I have opted to put her into a moss and perlite mixture. The moss obviously will maintain high humidity around the roots, and then the perlite is for aeration because they also like well draining. I also have some aquarium pebbles down here at the bottom of this. It's a self-watering pot, so I keep water down here in the reservoir, but I have the rocks high enough so that the water is not sitting on top of the rocks. It's just creating that additional humidity. They are sequential bloomers, as many of our species Phalaenopsis are. Also, I have researched that the spikes here can actually rebloom off the same spike. I don't know if they mean the sequential reblooming or once the blooms are spent and it's not producing any more blooms, it'll bloom again. I didn't quite find what that meant when they said it could bloom off of an old flower spike. These are not known to be branching quite as frequently as the other deliciosa. It is supposed to be fragrant, but I have not had any fragrance off of mine, and it could just be the time of day I'm smelling it. I may not be giving it enough light. And as with all Phalaenopsis, they do prefer filtered light. They can handle early morning sun and late evening sun. This one here, as opposed to some other of the species, can do in a lower light area. Not dark, but lower light area. I had her under the grow shelf, but now that I've done this research and see that she can go with a little lower light, I think I'm going to set her on one of the tables that doesn't have the light right on it. She'll still get a lot of bright indirect light, just not a lot of the stronger light, and save that spot for another orchid. Also, my daughter, this is kind of her favorite orchid for this month as well, just because the name Deliciosa reminds her of Harry Potter. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan. I'm not sure what that reference is, but any of you who are, well, there you are. You have a Harry Potter Phalaenopsis here. And she's continued to open up her buds. I haven't had any bud blast quite yet. And it'll be interesting to see if her leaves, if you can kind of see, let me turn this one around. Do you see right here where it kind of has a little ruffled look to it? That's another characteristic of the deliciosa, is the leaves kind of have a little ruffled look to them. And I didn't notice that when I first got her, and that is just also a very unique feature about her. They also will grow in like a clump form. I don't know if they'll do that in a pot, but I've seen several pictures on the internet on mounts where they're very clumpy looking, so that'll be interesting to see if she does that. But overall, she's doing really well in my home, and like I said, she's just become one of my favorites. Just gorgeous. I don't know what I'm going to do if these continue to extend, because I'm afraid to get them knocked over. But either way, let me know what you think of my beautiful Phalaenopsis deliciosa, subspecies hookeriana. And thank you, Terry from TD Moore, for pointing that out, because when you left the comment about great looking hookeriana, was a little confused, so that's what got me on my rabbit hole search of what this was, and that's how I found out that the hookeriana is the one with the yellow blooms, whereas generally they do have white or purple blooms. If you have any questions on this orchid, or if I said something and didn't go into detail, want more detail, leave it in the comments down below. Otherwise, we'll see you next month with our next My Favorite Orchid.